What if I told you that finished loaf of sourdough bread on your kitchen counter is actually just getting started? Most people throw it out after 48 hours, but today I'm showing you how to turn those exact same scraps into a fizzy probiotic soda, a deep umami seasoning that rivals soy sauce, and a quick and easy dessert you'll want to make every single night. Firstly, we're putting a modern twist on a traditional classic drink, the Kvass. We're amping up those deep fermented notes by infusing our sourdough bread with Earl Grey tea and adding a fragrant fruity punch to this probiotic drink. No need to weigh anything here, 3 or 4 thick slices of sourdough bread will do the trick. Classic Kvass usually calls for rye, but a good sourdough loaf makes an incredible alternative. To fill our 1 litre bottle, we'll use filtered water and 100 ml of water for steeping our Earl Grey tea in. Sweeten your brew with 3 tablespoons of honey or sugar and half a cup of cherries. You can use fresh, frozen or canned. For equipment, you'll be using a large glass jar for storing your bread and tea in. I would recommend something that holds 2 litre water, even a large bowl works well. You'll want a heavy duty pressure rated swing top bottle for this, and to toast your sourdough bread you'll need a large enough baking tray for the oven. When you're ready to bottle, use a funnel and a fine mesh sieve. First, we preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Whilst that warms up, roughly chop your sourdough bread into chunks and slide them into toast. You're looking for a deep, dark colour to really push those toasted notes. Next, prep your tea concentrate by steeping a tea bag in 100 ml of water for about 3 to 5 minutes, adjusting the time on how bold you want those spices to be. Meanwhile, give your cherries a rough chop, removing the stones if you've used fresh fruit. Once the bread is cooled completely, add it to your large glass jar, along with the Earl Grey tea, your choice of sugar or honey, the cherries, and the filtered water. Give it a good stir to dissolve the sweetener, then cover the jar with a cheesecloth or a loose lid to let it breathe. You'll want to leave your jar in a warm spot, away from direct sunlight, for about 24 hours to 72 hours. You'll know when it's ready to bottle, for when you'll see those tiny bubbles form at the surface and the liquid has developed a slightly tangy, fermented aroma. Once your Kvass has developed that signature flavour, it's time to move on to bottling. This second fermentation is where the carbonation occurs and we will get that beautiful fizz. Place your funnel and sieve over the bottle and pour carefully to ensure a clean, bread-free finish. For an extra flavour boost and a more reliable carbonation, you can add in a teaspoon of active sourdough starter directly into the bottle. Be careful over the next 24 to 48 hours though, pressure builds up fast. You'll need to burp the bottle by briefly opening the lid once or twice to release the excess gas and prevent any accidents. Once it's as fizzy as you'd like, move it into the fridge to halt the fermentation and enjoy your chilled, refreshing Kvass. We were taught that once sourdough bread goes stale, its life is over. At best, it's a crouton, but today we're using an ancient alchemy to turn this old bread into something more valuable: sourdough Shoyu. Transforming bread into Shoyu is surprisingly simple. All it takes is 500 grams of stale sourdough bread, roughly cubed, and 250 grams of koji rice. We'll combine these in a strong brine made from 440 grams of salt and distilled water, ensuring the perfect environment for a long ferment to begin. The equipment list is surprisingly short. You'll need a baking tray to roast your sourdough bread in, a 3 litre glass jar for the long ferment, and digital scales for those important accurate measures. First, we toast 500 grams of stale sourdough bread, cubed and baked in the oven until it's dark and golden. We want those roasted, Maillard driven notes. This is where the deep traditional colour of our Shoyu will come from. The magic ingredient is your koji. This rice is inoculated with koji spores, the same mould used to make sake and miso. We're using a 50% bread ratio, so we're going to weigh out 250 grams of koji to match our 500 grams of sourdough bread. To keep your Shoyu safe for the long haul, we're going to need a strong brine. 440 grams of salt dissolved into 1.5 litres of water. This creates an environment where only the good enzymes can thrive. In goes the toasted bread, the koji and the brine, and give it a good stir. In the beginning, it will look like a thick porridge and the bread will want to float to the top. For the first week, your only job is to stir it daily, pushing those solids down underneath the safety of the salt. After the first week, we leave the jar in a cool, dark place for 6 months to a year, allowing those enzymes to fully liquefy the bread into a deep, dark colour. When the time is up, we strain the mixture through a fine mesh sieve and a cheesecloth, letting the gravity filter out the clear, amber liquid. This finished sourdough Shoyu is then bottled and kept in the fridge, ready to bring a roasted, savoury depth to any dish. We're pairing the tang of sourdough with our deep, aromatic spice of chai. By steeping our custard with black tea, ginger and cardamom, we're turning this humble pear pudding into high-end dessert. For the base, you'll need about half a loaf of stale sourdough bread. You might want a few extra slices at hand, depending on the size of the tin you're baking it in. To build those deep chai flavours, we're using either a tablespoon of loose tea or 2 or 3 tea bags. You can use fresh or tinned pears here. For the custard, gather 3 egg yolks, 200 ml of whole milk, 250 ml of double cream and 80 grams of sugar. Also, you can include half a teaspoon of each ground ginger and cardamom to really amplify those spices. You can use a small amount of butter for spreading onto your sourdough bread and lining the dish. Equipment wise, we're keeping it simple but precise. You'll need a large oven proof dish with enough depth to let the bread fully soak up that chai custard without spilling over. Grab one pan and a glass bowl, one to gently heat your milk for that aromatic tea infusion, and a bowl and a whisk to make that smooth custard. Gently heat all the milk and 100 ml of the cream until warm. Then stir in your chai tea along with the ground ginger and cardamom. Let it steep for 10 to 12 minutes. This slow infusion is where we can build that depth, spice foundation for our custard. While the tea is infusing, it's time to build those layers. Start by applying a thin coating of butter to your dish to prevent sticking. Then begin tucking your breaded sourdough slices and pear wedges, alternating them to ensure you get a bit of fruit and bread with every single bite. In a large bowl, whisk the eggs and sugar together until they're pale and slightly aerated. Now for the most important part, slowly stream your warm chai infused milk along with the remaining cream. Making sure when you're whisking constantly as you pour, tempering the eggs this way will prevent them from scrambling and ensures a perfectly silky smooth custard. Now that your chai custard is ready, pour it evenly over your layered bread and pears. Make sure every single slice is well coated. Any dry spots won't soften properly in the oven. Let the dish sit and soak for 20 to 30 minutes to allow the sourdough to drink up that spiced milk. While you wait, preheat your oven to 100 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Bake for around 35 minutes until it comes out golden. This pudding is incredible both hot and cold, especially paired with a cold scoop of ice cream to balance those warm chai spices. From Kvass to Shoyu to dessert, leftover bread has never tasted this good. If you're going to try any of these at home, let me know which one in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss the updates on the Shoyu in the upcoming months. See you next time. Happy fermenting.